Justice, how have your 18 years on the court maybe changed you as a citizen or as a person?
Well, I've learned to pursue advocacies with more dedication because if you want your advocacy to bear fruit, you have to press on and continue despite all the odds. And even if at first it looks like an unreachable star, you just have to do what you think should be done. Like my advocacy on the West Philippine Sea, it looked like a shot in the moonshot. But I think I realized that there was no other way. We have to go through it. So it taught me perseverance. And it taught me that you should stick to your principles, and people will respect you for that, and they will follow you if you show them the way.
Yes, you've been very public on that issue, and some said that you have already crossed the boundaries outside the Supreme Court, that you have influenced the executive department.
Well, when I went on a world lecture tour to convince other governments to support our position, it was with the approval of the court. I asked the en banc for approval. I said that the Secretary Albert Del Rosario invited me to conduct a lecture tour all over the world to support the Philippine position, and the en banc gave me a permission to proceed. Because at that time, I said I did not have any backlog anyway, so I can do this thing. And I've always asked for permission every time I went abroad. And secondly, our adversary here is China, because China is claiming our territory and maritime zones. And China will never submit to the jurisdiction of the court. So there will never be an instance where this Supreme Court will be deciding a case between the Philippines and China, because China will never submit itself. So there will be no conflict of interest, because we will never decide that case. In fact, China refuses to even recognize the arbitral tribunal at The Hague, despite being a member of UNCLOS. And third, I think it's the duty of every citizen to defend the country in the best way he can. And because I have studied this issue when I was a ponente of the case, the baselines law, I saw that there was an opening to question China's 9-dash line legally. And because it was a legal approach, I felt that I had the competence to convince the government to do it, and that's why I did it. Because everybody should defend the Philippine territory and maritime zones. There's no exception.
Even if the president, criticizes you or is angry at you, that's not an obstacle.
Well, it comes with the territory. You're trying to convince other people who don't see it your way. Of course, there will be a reaction, so you have to engage them in a discussion. And when I first came out with this proposal in 2011, that we should bring China to an UNCLOS tribunal, people were saying, "Are you crazy? China has not done anything against us." But eventually, when China seized Scarborough Shoal, they realized that it had to be done. There was no other way. We had no military capability to defend the Scarborough Shoal. Our only defense was a legal defense, to bring China to a tribunal.